Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Listening Path, a title that tells all. I believe that it's an important point to say that we live in a time when we are surrounded by chaotic noise from all directions, and yet what we have not learned to do for ourselves is to listen. So this book came about with a conversation with Joel Fotinos over lunch, and Joel said to me, "What are you thinking about?" And I said, "Well, actually I'm thinking about listening." And he said, "What do you mean by that?" And I said, "Well, maybe I better write a book." So I began to think closely about listening. The fact that we don't listen to our environment. The tick, tick, tick of the kitchen clock is a steady, comforting sound if we tune into it. The songbirds in the trees are a lovely sound if we tune into it. The dog collar jangling against the water dish is a comforting sound if we tune into it. So I thought, well, maybe what we better learn first is how to tune into our environment. So I began asking questions like, what sounds do you habitually hear? What sounds do you habitually tune out? And I learned that I had a very unpleasant sounding alarm clock, and that with a little bit of an investment of money I could have a pleasant one. And I thought, well, maybe I should start my day with a pleasant sound instead of an unpleasant one. So the first chapter of the book is listening to our environment. The second chapter, which I think is very important, is listening to others. What I found was that many times in conversations, we cut off the people we are talking to, and we jump ahead, and we say what we think they're going to say, or we don't listen to their full thought. They need to have a chance to complete their thoughts, and when they do, they are surprising. So we have an opportunity to learn to listen more closely, and in listening more closely, we forge more intimate relationships. And I think this is something we're all hungry for. So after listening to others, we tune in and listen to ourselves, to what we might call the higher self, which is an intuitive voice that speaks to us, sometimes called the still small voice, that speaks to us when we listen. So we tune into our higher self, and we listen to what it has to say, and we often find that it's a voice of wisdom. So we have a greater resource of wisdom than we are accustomed to tapping into. So as we tap into it, we begin to hear, this is what you should try. This is what you shouldn't try. So that's a wonderful thing. So after that, we listen to a group of people that we may not think we can listen to. And that's the people we were near and dear to who have passed on. And what I have found is that if we say, can I hear from X? We do hear from X, and we hear back promptly, soothingly, gently, and persuasively. So this week is a week where we focus on listening to those who have passed on, which is an exercise in open-mindedness. The next open-minded thing we do is listen for our heroes. These are people that we have never met, but we wished we could meet. So I, for example, have a hero in Bill Wilson, who is the founder of AA, one of the co-founders of AA, and I admire his courage in starting a movement and believing that what had helped him could help others. So as you ask to hear from your heroes, you may at first feel like, oh, I'm bothering them. They're perfectly happy in the afterlife, and I'm tapping at the door saying, could you talk to me? But what we find is when we tap at the door and say, could you talk to me? They are delighted to talk to us, and they do talk back. So after that, we have an exercise that I think is important, which is that we listen to silence. And this is where we get the roots of meditation, where we calmly, quietly, deeply listen to a wiser, calmer, more gentle, directive voice. So as we listen to silence, we begin to hear our own inner wisdom. So these are the forms of listening that you will be engaged in with the listening path. And I just want you to say, oh, I never realized what I was missing.